December 2022. Elon Musk just became the first person in history to lose $200 billion. His companies were bleeding, Twitter was chaos, Tesla was collapsing. But while the world watched him burn, he was building something they couldn't see. This is the story of the greatest financial comeback in modern history and the brutal psychology that made it possible. Before Elon Musk became the man who could lose $200 billion and smile about it, he was a kid who couldn't even survive a school day without getting beaten to a pulp. Pretoria, South Africa, 1981. A 10-year-old boy sits alone in the corner of a schoolyard, his nose bleeding, his glasses cracked. This wasn't unusual. This was Tuesday. Elon Musk was the smallest kid in his class, awkward, socially invisible, and obsessed with things nobody else cared about: comic books, computers, rockets. While other kids played rugby and talked about girls, Elon disappeared into science fiction novels for 10 hours straight, completely detaching from reality. His classmates called him a freak. They weren't entirely wrong. Elon had this unsettling habit of staring into space, completely silent, as if his mind had left his body. His mother thought something was wrong with his hearing. Doctors ran tests. Nothing. The truth was simpler and more disturbing. Elon's brain worked differently. When he started thinking about something, the entire world disappeared. People could be screaming his name and he wouldn't hear a sound. This wasn't meditation. This was obsession, and it made him a target. The bullying got worse. Groups of boys would corner him after school, push him down staircases, kick him until he stopped moving. One beating was so severe he had to get reconstructive surgery on his nose years later. His father, Elon Musk, wasn't exactly helpful. Elon was a successful engineer, brilliant and cold, the kind of man who believed suffering built character. When Elon came home bleeding, Elon would lecture him for hours about weakness, about failure, about how the world eats soft people alive. These weren't pep talks. These were psychological autopsies. Elon's parents divorced when he was 8. He chose to live with his father. Worst decision of his childhood. Errol was emotionally abusive, manipulative, and later in life would do things so disturbing that Elon would describe him as evil. But back then, young Elon thought his father was brilliant. He wanted to be close to him. He wanted approval. He never got it. So Elon retreated deeper into his own mind. At 12 years old, he taught himself computer programming from a manual, not because someone encouraged him, not because it was cool, because he was bored and lonely and needed something to control. Within months, he created a video game called Blastar, a simple space shooter. He sold the code to a computer magazine for $500, his first taste of money, earned through creation. It felt like oxygen, but South Africa was suffocating him. By his teenage years, Elon knew he had to leave. Not just leave town, leave the continent. He had this unshakable belief that America was the only place where the future was being built. At 17, he did something most teenagers wouldn't have the guts to do. He left alone, no safety net, no connections, just a one-way ticket to Canada because his mother was born there and it seemed like an easier entry point to North America than applying directly to the United States. He arrived in Montreal with nothing. No job, no place to stay. For months, he bounced between relatives' houses, worked on farms, shoveled grain in silos for $18 an hour. It was brutal, physical labor that left him exhausted and covered in dust. But Elon wasn't complaining. This wasn't suffering to him. This was progress. He was on the right continent. That was all that mattered. Eventually, he made his way to Queen's University in Ontario. This was where something shifted. For the first time in his life, Elon wasn't the weird kid everyone avoided. He was still weird, but now he was weird with ambition, and people responded to that. He met Justine Wilson, his first serious girlfriend, who would later become his first wife. He started thinking bigger, not just about escaping South Africa, about changing the world. After 2 years at Queen's, Elon transferred to the University of Pennsylvania, dual degree, physics and economics. This combination wasn't random. Elon understood something most people miss. Physics teaches you how the universe works. Economics teaches you how humans work. If you master both, you can bend reality to your will. But college wasn't enough. While his classmates were preparing for corporate jobs and stable salaries, Elon was reading everything he could about entrepreneurs, industrialists, people who built empires from nothing. He studied Nikola Tesla, Thomas Edison, Howard Hughes. He became obsessed with first principles thinking, the idea that you could break down any problem to its fundamental truths and rebuild solutions from scratch. This wasn't just philosophy. This was his operating system. In 1995, Elon got accepted to a PhD program in energy physics at Stanford University. This was the golden ticket. Stanford, Silicon Valley, the epicenter of the tech revolution. He packed his bags, drove across the country, enrolled in classes, and then, after 2 days, he dropped out. 2 days. Most people thought he'd lost his mind. You don't walk away from Stanford, but Elon saw something nobody else did. The internet was exploding. Netscape had just gone public. The world was being rewired in real time. If he stayed in academia, he'd spend years researching theories while other people built the future. That wasn't acceptable. So he made a bet, a terrifying, irrational, all in bet on himself. He called his brother Kimball. They had an idea for a startup, Zip2. It was basically an online business directory with maps, a primitive version of Google Maps combined with Yelp. They scraped together $28,000, rented a tiny office, and started coding. Elon slept at the office. Not sometimes, every night. He showered at the YMCA. He lived on $1 a day for food, hot dogs, oranges, whatever was cheap. This wasn't a side project. This was survival. Investors didn't take them seriously at first. Two kids from South Africa with no business experience trying to build an internet company? Cute. But Elon had this intensity that unnerved people. When he pitched, he didn't sound like he was asking for money. He sounded like he was stating an inevitable future. Eventually, they secured venture capital. Slowly, Zip2 gained traction. Newspapers started using their platform. The New York Times, Chicago Tribune, real clients, real revenue, but success came with a cost. Elon wanted to be CEO. The board said no. They brought in experienced executives who sidelined him, treated him like a smart kid who didn't understand business. Elon hated it. He fought them constantly. But he learned something crucial. Having a great idea isn't enough. You need control, you need power. Without it, someone else will take your vision and turn it into their mediocrity. In 1999, Compaq bought Zip2 for $307 million. Elon's cut, $22 million. At 27 years old, he was rich. Not Bezos rich, not Gates rich, but rich enough to never work again. Most people would have stopped, bought a house, relaxed, enjoyed life. Elon bought a McLaren F1 supercar, one of the fastest production cars ever made, and immediately started planning his next company. Because for him, money was never the goal. Money was fuel. And he was just getting started. $22 million. Most people retire. Elon Musk saw it as seed money for something bigger. March 1999. While the McLaren F1 was still being delivered, Elon was already deep into his next obsession, banking. Specifically, how broken it was. If you wanted to send money in 1999, you wrote a check, waited days for it to clear, paid ridiculous fees, and prayed nothing went wrong. The entire financial system ran on infrastructure from the 1970s. Elon looked at this and saw an empire waiting to be built. He founded X.com, not a porn site, an online bank. The idea was revolutionary and insane. Put all your money into an internet company that had existed for 3 weeks. Trust a startup with your life savings. Nobody was doing this because nobody trusted it. Elon didn't care. He poured $10 million of his own money into X.com immediately. Half his net worth. One company. No backup plan. The financial establishment laughed at him. Banks called it reckless. Regulators called it dangerous. But something strange happened. People started signing up, thousands of them, because Elon did something brilliant. He paid people, literally, sign up for X.com, get $10. Refer a friend, get 10 more. It was the fastest customer acquisition strategy anyone had ever seen. It was also bleeding money. His investors panicked. The board wanted him out again. This was becoming a pattern. Elon had vision, but he managed like a dictator. He worked 100-hour weeks and expected everyone else to do the same. He'd send emails at 3 in the morning and expect responses by 4. If you disagreed with him, he didn't debate. He fired you. His leadership style was simple. Move faster than everyone else or get out of the way. Then came the merger. Confinity, a rival company founded by Peter Thiel and Max Levchin, had a product called PayPal. It was essentially a way to email money. X.com and Confinity were burning cash, trying to destroy each other. Someone suggested they join forces. In March 2000, they merged. Elon became CEO of the combined company. He should have been celebrating. Instead, he almost lost everything. September 2000. Elon took his first vacation in years, got married to Justine, flew to Sydney for a belated honeymoon. 2 weeks. That's all he wanted. While he was in Australia, the executive team held a secret meeting. Peter Thiel, Reid Hoffman, the entire board. They voted Elon out as CEO. When he landed back in California, he wasn't the boss anymore. Peter Thiel was. The company he funded, the vision he built, taken from him while he was on his honeymoon. Most people would have walked away, destroyed. Oh, Elon stayed, humiliated, but stubborn. He remained the largest shareholder. He watched from the sidelines as Thiel rebranded everything to PayPal, the name Elon hated, but he kept his shares because he understood something about ego versus outcome. Being right mattered more than being in charge. October 2002. eBay bought PayPal for $1.5 billion. Elon's share, 180 million after taxes. At 31 years old, he was worth more than most people make in 10 lifetimes. He could have retired to a private island, invested in safe index funds, lived like a king forever. Instead, he decided to risk it all on two industries that destroy everyone who enters them: space travel and electric cars. Let's talk about space first. Since he was a kid, Elon believed humanity's survival depended on becoming a multiplanetary species, not a metaphor, literal survival. Earth was one asteroid away from extinction, one nuclear war, one pandemic. If humans stayed on one planet, we'd eventually go extinct. This wasn't paranoia, this was statistics. But space was expensive. NASA's budget had been gutted. Private space companies didn't exist because rockets cost hundreds of millions of dollars and exploded half the time. It was the worst possible business. Elon looked at this and saw opportunity. June 2002. He founded SpaceX with $100 million of his own money. His goal: reduce the cost of space travel by 10 times. Eventually, colonize Mars. When he told people this, they laughed. Not polite chuckles, full belly laughs. Elon Musk, the internet guy, was going to build rockets. NASA had been doing this for 50 years with unlimited government funding and still struggled. What made him think he could do better? First principles thinking. Elon asked a simple question: why are rockets so expensive? Everyone said because rockets are complex. Elon said no. Rockets are expensive because aerospace companies have no incentive to make them cheap. They get paid cost plus contracts. The more it costs, the more they make. It's a business model designed to waste money. So Elon started from scratch, bought rocket parts directly, hired young engineers willing to work insane hours for equity, built everything in-house. The first Falcon 1 rocket cost about $6 million to build. Industry standard, 50 million minimum. Wall Street said it would never work. The rocket would explode. The company would collapse. Elon would lose everything. They were almost right. March 2006, first Falcon 1 launch. The rocket exploded 63 seconds after liftoff. Failure, March 2007, second launch. The rocket started spinning out of control. Exploded. Failure. August 2008, third launch. Made it to space this time. Then the first stage collided with the second stage during separation. Exploded. Failure. Three failures. $100 million burned. SpaceX was almost out of money. Investors wanted out. Employees were getting job offers from Boeing and Lockheed Martin, companies that actually succeeded at launching rockets. Elon had one rocket left, one final launch. If it failed, SpaceX was finished. But space wasn't his only problem. While SpaceX was exploding rockets, Elon had gotten involved with a tiny electric car company called Tesla Motors. He didn't found it. Two engineers, Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning, started it in 2003. Elon joined in 2004 as chairman and lead investor. He put in $6.5 million initially. The plan was simple: build an electric sports car that didn't suck. Every electric car before Tesla was slow, ugly, and had a range of 40 miles, golf carts with doors. Elon wanted to build something that could compete with Ferraris. The Tesla Roadster, 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds. 250-mile range, sexy, fast, electric. Production was a nightmare. The company burned through money like gasoline. They promised to deliver cars in 2006, then 2007, then 2008. Customers who put down deposits were furious. Elon kept pouring money in, 10 million, 20 million, 50 million. He was funding two companies that were both failing simultaneously. Then 2008 hit, the financial crisis, the global economy collapsed. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. General Motors and Chrysler needed government bailouts. Banks stopped lending. Venture capital dried up. If you were trying to raise money for anything in 2008, especially a rocket company and an electric car company, you were dead. SpaceX was out of money. Tesla was out of money. Elon's personal fortune was almost gone. He had a choice: save one company and let the other die, or split his remaining cash between both and hope for a miracle. His friends told him to save SpaceX. Tesla was a luxury car company during a depression. It was doomed. Elon split the money: 20 million to SpaceX, 20 million to Tesla, his last 40 million. If both companies failed, he'd be broke. Not wealthy guy broke. Actually broke, he'd have to borrow money from friends to pay rent. September 28th, 2008, fourth Falcon 1 launch. This was it, the final rocket. SpaceX had enough money for payroll for maybe 2 more months. If this failed, everyone would be laid off by Christmas. The rocket launched from Kwajalein Atoll in the Pacific. Elon watched from SpaceX headquarters, surrounded by engineers who had sacrificed everything for this moment. The rocket lifted off. First stage separation, successful. Second stage ignition, successful. The rocket kept climbing. It reached orbit. They did it. SpaceX became the first private company in history to launch a liquid-fueled rocket into orbit. Elon collapsed in his chair, sobbing. Grown man crying in front of his entire team because he knew how close they'd come to oblivion. 3 days later, NASA called. They awarded SpaceX a $1.6 billion contract to resupply the International Space Station. The company was saved, but Tesla was still dying. December 2008. Tesla had 2 weeks of cash left, 2 weeks. Elon was trying to raise money, but nobody wanted in. The economy was in free fall. Electric cars seemed like a joke. On December 23rd, 3 days before the company would run out of money and shut down, Elon closed a $40 million financing round, Christmas Eve. The company survived by 72 hours. Elon was now CEO of both SpaceX and Tesla. He was also getting divorced from Justine. Their first son had died of SIDS at 10 weeks old. The marriage never recovered. They had 5 more sons through IVF, twins and triplets, but the relationship was broken. Elon was working 120 hours a week, sleeping on factory floors, skipping meals, living on caffeine and stress. People close to him said he looked like he was dying, and yet he kept building. 2010, Tesla went public. First American car company to IPO since Ford in 1956. The stock opened at $17. Skeptics said it would crash. It didn't. 2011, SpaceX became the first private company to dock with the International Space Station. Elon stood in mission control, watching the Dragon capsule connect, and for a moment, he let himself believe it was real. He was actually doing this, but the world still doubted him. Tesla was producing only a few thousand cars per year. They were losing money on every vehicle. The Model S was beautiful, but the company was still one bad quarter from bankruptcy. Short sellers were betting billions that Tesla would fail. Jim Chan, one of the most famous short sellers on Wall Street, called Tesla a cult stock propped up by Elon's personality. Elon's response? Build faster. In 2012, Tesla had 2,000 employees and produced 3,000 cars. By 2017, they had 37,000 employees and were attempting to produce 500,000 cars a year. The Model 3, the affordable Tesla, was supposed to save the company. Instead, it almost killed it. Production hell, that's what Elon called 2017 and 2018. Tesla couldn't manufacture cars fast enough. The assembly line was broken. Robots weren't working. Cars were being built in a tent outside the factory because there wasn't enough room inside. Elon was sleeping on the factory floor again, 3 hours a night, trying to fix problems in real time. He later admitted he was taking Ambien to sleep and using other substances to stay functional. He was unraveling. August 2018. Elon tweeted, "Am considering taking Tesla private at 420, funding secured." The stock jumped. The SEC investigated. Turns out funding was not secured. Elon had talked to Saudi investors, but there was no deal. The tweet was impulsive, possibly influenced by lack of sleep and stress. The SEC charged him with fraud. He settled, paid $20 million, stepped down as chairman, but remained CEO. Twitter almost destroyed him, but he didn't stop tweeting. By 2020, Tesla's stock started exploding. The Model 3 was finally being mass-produced, profits were coming in, SpaceX was launching astronauts to the space station. Elon went from controversial CEO to the richest person on Earth. His net worth crossed $200 billion. Forbes, Bloomberg, every financial publication on the planet was tracking his wealth like a scoreboard. And then, in typical Elon fashion, he decided to buy the platform that almost destroyed him, Twitter. $44 billion, the most chaotic acquisition in modern business history, and the setup for the biggest financial loss any human has ever experienced. April 2022. Elon Musk made an offer nobody thought he was serious about. $44 billion for Twitter. Cash. No financing contingencies, just the richest man on Earth deciding to buy the digital town square because he didn't like how it was being run. Wall Street thought it was a negotiation tactic. Tech analysts thought it was a publicity stunt. Elon's own lawyers probably thought he'd lost his mind, but he meant it. He signed the papers. Then, almost immediately, he tried to back out. The problem was simple. Elon offered $44 billion for a company that probably wasn't worth $30 billion. He knew this. Everyone knew this, but he'd signed a contract with almost no escape clauses. When he tried to walk away, Twitter's board sued him. Delaware Chancery Court made it clear, you signed the deal, you're buying the company, pay up or go to trial and lose everything. October 27th, 2022. Elon Musk became the owner of Twitter. He walked into headquarters carrying a sink, literally. Let that sink in, he tweeted. It was cute. It was memeable. It was also the beginning of the most expensive financial disaster in human history. Within hours, he started firing people, not carefully, not strategically, immediately. The entire C suite gone. Weeks later, he laid off half the company, 4,000 employees. He gave them an ultimatum: work extremely hardcore, long hours at high intensity, or leave. Thousands more quit. Twitter went from 7,500 employees to 1,500 in 2 months. The platform should have collapsed. Every expert said it would. You can't fire 75% of your workforce and expect the servers to stay online, but they did. Twitter kept running. Elon proved something uncomfortable. Most of those employees weren't necessary. The company had been bloated, inefficient, overstaffed. He cut the fat with a chainsaw and the patient survived. But the money didn't. Advertisers fled. Apple, Disney, Coca-Cola, every major brand pulled their spending. They didn't trust Elon. They didn't like his politics. They didn't want their ads next to controversial content. Twitter's revenue dropped 50% almost overnight. Elon had borrowed $13 billion to buy the company. That debt required $1 billion in annual interest payments. Twitter was now losing money and paying $1 billion in interest. The math didn't work. And that was just Twitter. Tesla's stock was collapsing. Elon had sold billions in Tesla shares to fund the Twitter deal. Investors panicked. If Elon was dumping stock, what did that say about Tesla's future? Was he distracted? Was Twitter going to destroy both companies? The stock dropped from $300 to $100. Elon's net worth evaporated. $340 billion at the peak, down to $137 billion by December 2022. $200 billion gone in less than a year. This wasn't a market crash affecting everyone. This was personal. Elon Musk had just experienced the largest individual wealth destruction in recorded history. The Guinness Book of World Records made it official. Biggest financial loss ever. No human had ever lost this much money this fast. And yet, if you watched him during interviews, something was strange. He wasn't panicking. He wasn't depressed. He seemed almost energized. When asked about losing $200 billion, he laughed, actually laughed, said it was a record he'd rather not have, but what could you do? Move forward. This is where the psychology gets interesting. Normal people attach their identity to their net worth. Lose money, lose yourself. Elon never did this. Money to him was always a tool, a resource, a way to keep score. But it wasn't him. His identity was tied to mission, making humanity multiplanetary, accelerating sustainable energy, protecting free speech. These weren't business goals. These were existential imperatives. The money could go to zero, and the mission remained. And the mission was working. While Twitter burned cash and Tesla's stock collapsed, SpaceX was quietly becoming the most valuable private company on Earth. Starlink, Elon's satellite internet project, was launching thousands of satellites. Ukraine was using Starlink terminals to fight Russia. Remote villages in Africa were getting internet for the first time. The U.S. military was signing contracts. Revenue was pouring in. SpaceX was valued at $137 billion. Elon owned 42%. That's $57 billion right there. Tesla, despite the stock crash, was still selling more electric vehicles than every other car company combined. The Model Y became the best-selling car in the world. Not best-selling electric car, best-selling car, period. Outselling the Toyota Camry. The factories in Texas and Berlin were ramping up. Profit margins on each vehicle were industry-leading. The fundamentals were strong. The stock would recover, and it did. By 2023, Tesla's stock rebounded. Investors realized Elon wasn't abandoning the company. He was still sleeping in the factory, still fixing production issues, still pushing autonomous driving. The stock climbed back above 200, then 250, then 300. Elon's net worth crossed 200 billion again, then 250. By late 2024, he was back over 300 billion. The comeback was faster than the collapse. So where does Elon's money actually come from? Let's break it down. Tesla is the core. He owns 13% of the company. As of late 2024, Tesla's market cap fluctuates between $600 billion and $1 trillion depending on the week. 13% of $700 billion is $91 billion, but Elon also has stock options, compensation packages tied to performance milestones. If Tesla hits certain revenue and market cap targets, he gets more shares. These packages are worth tens of billions. SpaceX is the hidden empire. Valued at over $137 billion, Elon owns roughly 42%. That's another $57 billion. But here's the key. SpaceX is private. Elon doesn't have to sell shares. He doesn't have to answer to public market panic. He can build for the long term. Starship, the fully reusable rocket designed to take humans to Mars, costs billions to develop. Public markets would destroy a company spending that much on an unproven rocket. Private ownership lets Elon play the long game. Then there's the smaller pieces. Neuralink, his brain computer interface company, valued around 5 billion. The Boring Company, his tunnel drilling venture, valued around 5.7 billion. XAI, his new artificial intelligence company launched to compete with OpenAI, already valued in the tens of billions after 1 year. Add it all up: Tesla equity, SpaceX's ownership, private companies, stock options, cash. Elon's net worth sits between 250 and 350 billion, depending on Tesla's stock price. He is once again the richest human on Earth, richer than Bernard Arnault, richer than Jeff Bezos, richer than anyone in recorded history. But here's what people miss: Elon is cash poor. Almost all his wealth is tied up in stock. He doesn't have billions sitting in a bank account. When he needs cash, he borrows against his shares or sells stock, which causes the price to drop, which makes him less wealthy on paper. It's a bizarre cycle. He's the richest man alive, but has to borrow money to pay taxes. The IRS came for him in 2021. He owed 11 billion in taxes, the largest individual tax bill in American history. He paid it by selling Tesla stock, which caused the stock to drop, which reduced his net worth, which meant he had less money after paying taxes than the taxes he paid. The system is designed to punish people with wealth tied to equity. But Elon doesn't care about liquid cash. He cares about control. He'd rather own companies than own money because companies build the future. Money just sits there. Now let's talk about the lessons. What can anyone actually learn from watching a man lose $200 billion and rebuild it in 2 years? First lesson: diversification is a myth for builders. Every financial advisor tells you to diversify. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Elon does the opposite. He goes all in every time. Zip2, PayPal, Tesla, SpaceX, Twitter. He bets everything on his vision. This strategy would destroy 99% of people. But if you're right, if your vision is correct, concentration creates empires. Diversification protects wealth. Concentration builds it. Second lesson: ignore short-term pain. When Tesla's stock dropped 70% in 2022, Elon didn't panic sell. He didn't pivot. He kept building cars. The stock recovered because the fundamentals were strong. Most people sell at the bottom because they can't handle the emotional pain. Elon has this almost sociopathic ability to ignore market panic. It's not confidence, it's detachment. He genuinely doesn't care what the market thinks this week. Third lesson: control the narrative. Elon has 170 million Twitter followers. When mainstream media attacks him, he responds directly. When short sellers bet against Tesla, he mocks them publicly. He doesn't play by traditional PR rules. He creates his own media ecosystem. This drives traditional journalists insane, but it works. His followers trust him more than they trust CNBC. Fourth lesson: vertical integration wins. Tesla doesn't just make cars. They make batteries, software, charging infrastructure, insurance. SpaceX doesn't just launch rockets. They build engines, capsules, satellites, ground stations. Elon hates relying on suppliers. If you control the whole chain, you control costs, quality, and speed. It's harder. It's more expensive up front, but long term, it's unbeatable. Fifth lesson: first principles, thinking over conventional wisdom. When everyone said rockets had to be expensive, Elon asked why and rebuilt them from scratch. When everyone said electric cars couldn't be profitable, he asked why and figured out battery economics. Conventional wisdom is just other people's conclusions. First principles let you derive your own. But here's the dark side nobody talks about: this lifestyle destroys you. Elon has been married 3 times, divorced 3 times. He has 12 children with 3 women. Multiple kids have reported troubled relationships with him. He's admitted to using Ambien, Xanax, ketamine. He's described himself as depressed. In interviews, he talks about the pain, the loneliness, the constant stress. There's a scene from 2018 where he's crying during an interview with the New York Times, admitting this year has been the most difficult and painful of his career. You don't lose $200 billion and smile because you're fine. You smile because you've trained yourself to detach from outcomes. It's a survival mechanism, and it costs you parts of your humanity. December 2024, Elon Musk is back on top. Tesla's stock is soaring. SpaceX just caught a rocket booster with mechanical arms, something that should be physically impossible. Twitter, rebranded as X, is still losing money but transforming into something bigger: a super app, payments, video, long-form content, the everything platform. And Elon, he's sleeping 4 hours a night, running 5 companies, tweeting at 3 in the morning, planning a city on Mars, developing brain implants, building humanoid robots. He's 53 years old and he's moving faster than he did at 30. The question isn't whether he'll succeed. The question is what breaks first, the companies or the man? Because here's the truth about Elon Musk. He didn't lose $200 billion and smile because he's resilient. He smiled because losing money never scared him. What scares him is dying before humanity becomes multiplanetary. What terrifies him is running out of time. The money was always just fuel. And as long as there's a mission, he'll keep burning it. This is the story of a man who treated his entire fortune like a poker chip, who lost more money than most countries' GDP, and who rebuilt it faster than anyone thought possible. Not because he's lucky, not because he's a genius, but because he's pathologically incapable of stopping. The greatest financial comeback in history wasn't about the money, it was about the mission and the brutal psychology that made it possible.